I have never seen anger within the Muslim community like this ever in my lifetime. The scale of anger, hurt, and feeling of betrayal by the Labour Party is high.
Ali, I'll start with you. Why did you organise this letter? What drove you to do that?
Well, this letter was brought about by councillors themselves independently and was supported by the Labour Muslim Network, largely because there was a huge amount of pain and anger within the community at the response and some of the comments that were coming out of the Labour Party, but also huge concern for the devastating loss of life on all sides and a need to see the violence. The reality is that there are 2.2 million people in Gaza now who are facing indiscriminate violence, and the councillors, in an unprecedented move, there's 250 councillors from all across the country came together to demand a ceasefire.
Do you have sympathy, though, with the situation that Keir Starmer is in the sense that, he's had this big problem with anti-Semitism in the Labour Party, obviously wants to send a very, very strong signal of solidarity with the Jewish community. To be fair, most Western allies have not called for an outright ceasefire. They seem to have landed on this language of a humanitarian pause. I mean, do you have sympathy for the sort of tightrope he's having to walk on at the moment?
Look, I think I don't think it's a difficult decision to make. Obviously, the dealing with anti-Semitism in the Labour Party is critical, and I understand Sir Keir Starmer's position in dealing with that directly and forthrightly, and I support that. But that's not what this is about. What this is about is 2.2 million people, over half of whom are children, who are now being collectively punished for what a heinous group did on October 7th. So this is a moral question. This is a humanitarian question. The children in Gaza who are dying under rubble bear no responsibility to what Hamas did and bear no control over the future of what happens over the next 2 weeks. The call for a ceasefire is to protect them. It's to protect, for example, the infants currently in incubators in Gazan hospitals, where the incubators are being switched off because there's not enough power being sent.
Yeah, and we've just
look. When you ask me about sympathies, I don't know how this is a difficult question. I don't know how this is a difficult position to take. As a human being, as someone who believes in humanitarianism, standing with the souls' lives is an easy one for me.
Ali, one of the questions that people are saying is, if there is a ceasefire, and there are discussions about having these humanitarian pauses to allow aid, and admittedly it's just been a drop in the ocean, but what happens after a ceasefire? I mean, a lot of people are just not going to want to feel that something is done about Hamas. What happens after a ceasefire?
Well, I think, look, the ceasefire, first of all, is to protect all innocent life in Gaza. And I mean, look, we've been clear, the release of hostages is absolutely paramount as well. And so using our international partners to negotiate the release of hostages is really, really important. But I want to touch this question of right to defend Israel's right to defend itself versus the ceasefire and how that's contradictory. The reality is that 2.6 thousand children that have died are not Hamas. They bear no responsibility for what's happened. So bombing them is not a way to release hostages. Okay. You can't put pressure on a people by bombing children, innocent children, to release hostages. I mean, I'm absolutely clear. The terrorist attacks were heinous, horrific, and my absolute heart goes out to all the families who've lost loved ones and hostages who still need to be released. But the way to do that is not to bomb children.
Okay.
Yeah, on the politics of it, and I want to touch on what was just said, I disagree. I think I have never seen anger within the Muslim community like this ever in my lifetime. The scale of anger, hurt, and feeling of betrayal by the Labour Party is high. And I think we have to remember that the Muslim community has been part of the Labour family for decades. We did a poll, LMN did a poll with Survation, the first ever poll of British Muslims' voting intentions. And it showed north of 75% of Muslims who are registered to vote support Labour, which it makes Muslims one of the largest voting communities that Labour has anywhere. And I am telling you right now with absolute certainty that is at serious risk. And if we think that there won't be seats that are lost, I know for a fact that there are 31 seats in this country right now where the Muslim population, constituent population, is larger than the majority. Now, Muslims are not a homogenous group. We have a million and one things that different communities care about. But what I have been hearing on the ground, I'm in Manchester right now, and there were politicians being booed at Friday prayer. And so one of the things that I would warn is this is absolutely the right moral thing to do, to call for a ceasefire. Leading on this is absolutely the right humanitarian issue as well. But politically, within the Labour Party, I am begging the leadership and anyone who will listen, please do not dismantle decades and decades of a coalition, of a family between Muslim communities and Labour, because we're right on the edge of doing that.